Well, it's election season once again, and this time I have with me State Senator Tim Sheldon, and he's going to talk with us this morning. Morning, Tim.
Hi, good morning, Jeff.
First things first.
Glad to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for talking with me. First things first. Tell me why why you're running again for state senate, and why should voters send you back to Olympia one more time?
Well, I've been in the Senate quite a while, and I'm very effective. I think that I've worked very hard for our district and our constituents. I work across the aisle. I'm the most bipartisan legislator that's down there, and I get along with both the Republicans and the Democrats, and I think that's served us in the 35th District well. We have lots of new projects going on right now, transportation, capital budget projects, of course, construction things going on. And I always work to keep our taxes as low as possible and to represent the constituent, not the party, not the special interests, not the radical groups out of Seattle. So I think I've done a good job. The voters have sent me there a few times, and I'd like to do one more term here.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the focus of your attention. I know you're from the Potlatch area, Mason County. The 35th,
Yes.
as we know, is a large district from Bremerton
Yes.
Down far south. Do you tend or find yourself focusing more on issues related to kind of where you live, or are you able to hear and understand the needs of all the folks from the north all the way to the south of the district?
Well, I think I'm representative of the whole district. Of course, that includes all of Mason County, part of the southern part of Thurston, and the western part of Kitsap County. It's about 1,000 square miles. That's a lot, but I get around quite a bit. I have this one focus. You know, we grow timber and harvest timber and oysters and sell gravel in Potlatch. So previously, I'd been a county commissioner, and I had spent a lot of more time, I would say, in Mason County because of that job. But without that job now, I spend a lot more time in the other parts of the district. We are the most rural district in the state of Washington. You would think that would be somewhere in eastern Washington, but all we have for incorporated areas when the district was formed was, of course, all of Sheldon and just a small portion of Bremerton. So most people live out in the countryside, have a well, septic tank, and drain field. They're not urban dwellers, and it's a big district to cover, but I think I keep in touch with them as closely as I can. And, Jeff, I also survey my voters every session. I send out a mailer at the beginning of the session talking about the bigger issues that are coming up and ask them for their input. And all during the session, we're in contact with our constituents, and then at the end of the session, I mail them and online a report card of how I voted on the big issues and how I represented them. So if you don't listen to the voters, they don't send you back, and they have sent me back several times.
Well, let's talk about the first time they sent you to Olympia, and tell me how your values or the way that kind of you see life in general has changed since the first time you were sent to Olympia.
Well, I was first elected to the House of Representatives back in 1990, so I'm actually the longest-serving legislator. And the district has changed for me somewhat. We've gone through redistricting 3 times, so we've changed somewhat. You know, the forest products has always been the dominant industry in Mason County, but as the technology has come in and different harvest practices. We've had some changes in the mills. We now have a wonderful mill in Sheldon with the Sierra Pacific operation, but it is a few less jobs than what Simpson had over the years. We don't have a plywood plant in Mason County anymore. We did for years. So I'm very acutely aware of the industrial jobs that we have because they generate the service sector jobs. So I work very closely and have helped many of the manufacturing companies in Mason County. Also, Taylor Shellfish has grown over the years. That's a dominant industry for us, and we've got more employees in local government, and we provide more services at the local government level. So, with my experience in local government as a county commissioner, I want to make sure that the state is a partner with the local government in providing services as well. And as I mentioned to you, I also work with Energy Northwest, which is a coalition, a municipal group with all the utilities in public utilities in Washington State. Of course, Mason PUD 3 and PUD 1, Thurston County PUD, Kitsap PUD is also a member. So I spend quite a bit of time on utility issues and making sure that our utility rates, are as low as possible.
Have you changed as a Democrat in the party, or has the party changed around you since you first came to the House?
Well, I would say the party has changed around me. I've always been a Democrat. I've always run as a Democrat. That ticks off the liberal, super liberal Democrats, because I think they believe I trade on their name somehow. But I work with everybody in Olympia, and if it takes sitting down with the Republicans to get something done, I'll do it. And the party has changed. When I first started, let's just take Simpson for example, big mill. I would say that almost all of the people that worked in there were Democrats. They had grown up in Mason County. They were hunters and fishermen. They were very much in favor of the Second Amendment. They were gun owners. And over time, I think our district has become more conservative. It is obviously they did vote just barely for Trump in the last presidential election. That probably would have been unheard of in 1990 when I first started. But so the party has always run against me. The Democratic Party, they've spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars against me. But I just think the party has changed. You look at the Seattle City Council, some of the things, the head tax they proposed in Seattle on employers. You look at the taxes they want to impose, and of course my opponent has bought into the liberal Democratic agenda, the party agenda, and it just doesn't fit for a rural district like the 35th. So I don't think I've changed. I still believe in people and making sure that we take care of the elderly and make sure that we do everything we can to create jobs here in Mason County and the 35th district. But I think the party has changed, and it's focused primarily on kind of a new socialist agenda, and that's pretty scary for me. I think we still believe in capitalism in the 35th district.
Have you ever risked a job, a position, or status in the community for standing up for what you thought was right?
Oh, I think so. A few years ago, we had a bill about education for young people that came to this country without a visa, and my grandparents were immigrants, and I stood up for them. I think if you came here as a child, you should be entitled to the benefits that others have. That doesn't mean that we ought to open our borders, but I think we need to work for a solution on the DACA kids, they call them. Mm-hmm. I've also voted recently for a voting rights bill, which I think helps the cities to have better representation of the minorities. I've also voted to ban this conversion therapy, which is an attempt to convert gay kids to straight kids. I think that's just out of bounds. So the liberal Democrats don't recognize any of those votes, of course. It's all, for them, you've got to be all in on all issues. You have to vote a straight party line. And I'm never going to do that because no political party has the monopoly on all the good ideas or the policies that work for our district. So I'm somewhat of an outcast with those liberal Democrats, but I think a lot of Democrats still do vote for me because I have their values.
Tell me a time that you were able to persuade someone to change their way of thinking, perhaps vote in a way that you were going to vote.
Well, I think I've had a lot of luck with a lot of good success. I wouldn't call it luck. Good success with the urban legislators in convincing them that we needed assistance in the rural areas. For example, some of the money we receive for infrastructure in the county comes because of my efforts. I've seen a lot of changes in a bill, just recent bill that I got to the Senate floor, through the House, and just about passed for broadband. We need a better broadband deployment in the rural areas. The governor's office recognizes that. My bill will be front and center next year, and the governor's office will be supporting it. We just need to make sure that the rural areas of our state have the internet capability, broadband capability that the urban areas have. Otherwise, we can't sustain the small businesses in our rural area. You just have to have good connectivity. Our kids can't apply to schools online, can't do their homework online. So that's something I've really worked hard on. I think convinced a lot of my fellow legislators that we are one Washington. Our rural areas need assistance. The urban areas, with the job growth, think of this, Jeff. 700,000 new people to Washington State in the last 10 years.
Wow.
And 2/3 of them are in King, Pierce, and Snohomish counties. So they're not only are they congested, but they're collecting a tremendous amount of tax revenue in those areas, and they need to share that a little bit with us because they like to come out here to Mason County and recreate. Mm-hmm. And we need our good infrastructure. We need, I mentioned broadband. We need transportation upgrades. We need maintenance on our roads out here. And I think I've been a good partner with the urban legislators in getting some progress.
If the voters send you back this November, what happens after that? Do you have any other further political aspirations?
No, I've never run for a higher office. You know, people always said, "Well, would you run for Congress after Norm Dix retired?" And no, absolutely not. I enjoy what I do. I've been elected president of the Senate by my colleagues 3 times in the legislature. I've enjoyed that job, taking over for the governor, a lieutenant governor, when he can't preside, and learning how to do that, and being a fair, impartial person with the gavel and presiding over the Senate. I don't have any other political ambitions other than serving the people of the 35th district. Now, I might mention my opponent has never been elected to any political office, any elected office. And I think that experience matters, especially in the Senate. I sit on the Rules Committee. I, with 3 other people, write the budget for the Senate Transportation Committee, and that budget goes to the committee floor and then on to the House, hopefully, and then to the governor's office. So I've got a lot of input. When you drive through Taylortown at Lynch Road now, the project I put in the budget, a safety project, $5 million is underway. If you're out in Belfair, the widening project, I started with funding for that in 2005, and we finally got the widening done. Now we're starting on the bypass, and that'll start next in 2019, and environmental work construction will start in 2021. So a lot of those projects take a long time to get through the legislature, and then certainly a while to complete. But I would say not only that, but projects like the domestic violence center that we have in Sheldon, the new small homes projects for veterans, $6 million for that in Kitsap and Mason County. So I think I've been really effective, and I like to do those things for our district, and I think we've been very successful.
In the last minute or two, tell the voters why they should bring you back to the Senate this November.
Well, as I just said, I've been very effective. I'm a legislator who I think is respected by both sides of the aisle. It is a very partisan place down there, so you need to have good relationships with Republicans and Democrats. I think that my longevity is certainly helpful in working with constituents. Many people call our office and get good advice on what agency they might go to, or how I can advocate for them personally. And obviously my opponent has no skills, has never dealt with a constituent issue. So that is something that I think the constituents that I have really appreciate. And I don't miss a vote. I can tell you for the last 4 years I have not missed a vote on that Senate floor, and there's not many people that can say that. So I'm there working for you, and I would like to continue, and I need your vote out there in the 35th District to return in January.
He is running for, once again, State Senate. It's Tim Sheldon. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Jeff.